everybody. My name is Stefan van der Vat and I'm the CEO of Management Drives. If you prioritize developing the potential of your team as well as their engagement and well-being, Management Drives can assist you by identifying what motivates your team members. I would love to invite all attendees to experience what Management Drives can do for you and your team. Make use of our limited offer to receive a personal leadership profile free of charge, including a 15-minute online debrief during the event. We'd love to see you soon.
Persona Global, a sponsor of the Global Village, welcomes you to the 2023 ATD International Conference. We're a different kind of company. Learn about our two-way street business approach and how we distribute our partners' content in many countries. Visit us at our booths 826 and 828 and meet some of our current partners and learn more about our international network. We look forward to meeting you there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Wally. Welcome to the panel discussion. And this is the title, Core Insights from Asia. We have 4 distinguished speakers to discuss about how to develop value-based L&D, align learning with business outcome. I'm from Taiwan, but I work for ATD China region. I facilitate lots of ATD programs. Today is really happy. Though it's really early morning for all of us to do this recording. But first of all, I would like to invite 4 speakers to brief introduction of themselves. And also because our title is called Develop Value-Based L&D, so I would like them to not only just introduce themselves, but also speak a little bit about how do they look about the term value in their organization. So I think this is really quite an early morning for Amit from India. So how about start from Amit?
Thank you, Wally. Thank you for the nice context setting to this panel discussion. Like you all know that I'm from India. I've been in the space of IT-enabled services world for more than 2.5 decades. And I bring in experience both in operations management, customer service management, and of course, L&D. And I've been a staunch advocate of ATD practices, and I've kind of informally represented ATD as a volunteer, as a single point of contact out of India. So it's great to be here in this panel. With respect to the value that L&D can create and should create is essentially, in my view, is that we need to map ourselves to the CEO's agenda. We need to map ourselves to the stakeholders' agenda, to the larger stakeholders' agenda. What is that they want to achieve as an organization? What's the focus of the organization? So if we are aligned and mapped to the focus area of the organizations and build our L&D strategy, keeping all those elements in mind, that's where we will be invited to those board meetings, to the strategy meetings, to weave the game plan for the future. So that's my quick take on this, pretty much to kickstart this conversation.
Okay, thanks, Amit. And next, can we invite Davey to speak a little bit?
Hi, everyone. Very good morning. By the time the conference comes, it could be afternoon, it could be night as well. Okay, so for me, I'm a little bit different. You know, everyone wants to be different. I've been about 30 years in L&D, spreading from hospitality, real estate management, to MNC oil and gas. And now I ended up in healthcare for the last 8 to 9 years. Why healthcare? Because you're getting older, so might as well, you know, go into healthcare and create value so that the outcomes benefit not only yourself but your loved ones and everyone else. I was with acute hospital for about 8 years, and I moved into a very unique role January this year, where my organization now is actually a third of the population of Singapore. So what we have done is, because Singapore has a very aging population and a shrinking workforce, we are looking at how we look at population health primarily from preventive health. So, you know, what's interesting for me is my organization is 1.5 million. My learners are 1.5 million. And it's a new and exciting journey. And when you ask me the question about what's value, I think as learners or as employees or as residents within the population, we need to embrace lifelong learning, right? And that's the value that we bring not only to ourselves, but to the organization and everyone that we work with. So how can we, you know, nudge people to really be excited about being lifelong learners, to embrace unlearning, relearning, learning, so that lifelong careers will be in existence. And that's where not only organizations become having great outcomes, but generally the whole country will benefit from it as well.
Okay, thanks, David. Provide a more macro view, not only focus on organization value creation. And next one, we will invite Laura from China to speak a little bit.
Hi, everybody. This is Laura from Beijing. I have many years of experiences in different areas of automotive industry. Currently, I work for Volkswagen Group China, and I actually have two titles today. And one is the Vice President for Volkswagen Group China for special projects. Usually, my projects here are confidential until they are finished. So also, I'm a very operational person because I am also the Group MD for Volkswagen Group Import in China. So not to do any advertisement, but just want to share with you. For example, we sell Lamborghini, Bentley, Volkswagen cars here. So that's my area of responsibilities. Thank you. And also to add a little bit more to what the question was to us, that was the value of this company. So as an automaker, definitely we take responsibility for environment and also for the society. Of course, there are some more, but then I stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Laura. And then we come to Thomas from Japan.
Thank you. Yep. So hello, everyone. I'm Tom, originally from the UK, but I've spent all of my professional career out here in Japan. Most recently, I've been acting as the regional lead for L&D in Novartis, so working in the pharma sector. And just the other month, I actually switched jobs. So I'm now working for Shiseido, which is a Japanese cosmetics company. And I'm working in the global headquarters now, heading up the global talent development and learning strategy team. In relation to the question for today's session, so how does L&D add business value? So my take is that there's sort of three broad areas where we can add value. One is around enhancing employee engagement through learning. So we know that enhanced engagement means enhanced discretionary efforts on the part of employees, and that should, in theory, have a very real impact on the bottom line for businesses. So I think that's one key area. Another area I think that we don't maybe often talk about with regards to learning is driving culture. So learning as a means to drive a common culture across global organizations is a second big area, I think, where we can add value. And then a third is building future capabilities. And for that, I think the L&D function now has a role to play as a consultant for business. And we need to be able to go to the business side and discuss how we can design ecosystems that will drive the capabilities we need for the future. And that means looking beyond pure training or learning initiatives, but also thinking about the systems and the processes as well that will help drive those desired capabilities.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I think Thomas just raised a really good issue that because our session title is called develop value-based L&D. So I will then follow up asking Thomas to explain a little bit about how do you, from your point of view, how can L&D department or L&D teams become a value creator? Can you speak a little bit more?
Sure. So maybe just expanding on those 3 points that
Yeah,
I
sure.
discussed just then. So firstly, in relation to engagement, I saw in my time at Novartis that where we created a global learning organization for the first time under the banner of the Novartis Learning Institute. And in the past, learning initiatives have been quite disparate. So there was quite a lot of differences in what we were doing between the different regions. And then around 4 years ago, we created a global learning organization for the first time. And one of our objectives was to provide the same high quality learning opportunities to all of our associates wherever they are in our global network. And we found that by designing a comprehensive global learning portfolio and making that accessible to all of our associates, regardless of where they sit in the hierarchy, that we were able to drive enhanced engagement among our associates, which we measured by pulse surveys. We were also enabled to use learning as a means to enhance our EVP, our employee value proposition, and both internally and externally. So we noticed that through our learning initiatives, we were able to position Novartis as a leader in learning, as a company that if you joined, you would be able to proactively develop yourself. And as a result, we found that the number one reason people chose to join Novartis was for the developmental opportunities that we provide. That was shown through survey data that we collected from new hires. So that's one big sort of broad bucket, I guess, where I think L&D can offer real value is driving engagement and also enhancing the EVP to attract and retain talent.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And I'm not sure like if anyone wants to add on more on how to become value creator for LD team.
If I would like to add on to Thomas's point, very relevant that the employee engagement and how you're able to engage them in by providing the same value proposition, the similar experience across globe. I was the learning leader for Infosys, which is one of the largest IT-enabled and IT company and IT services company. And what we did was we made learning autonomous in terms of looking at the learning styles of various employees. So if you would like to learn through the digital learning methods, we have digital labs for you across all our locations. If you'd like to attend classroom-based sessions, we have classroom-based opportunities. You learn better through podcasts, we have podcasts for you. So we made learning ecosystem autonomous and for the learners to choose what works for them. And that's how we were able to attract attention and interest levels of employees. And also one more thing that we did was we linked some of their progression to different roles to the learning outcomes. If you have invested yourself in learning, if you're keen about building your own career, we are providing you a learning path. You follow that learning path and take up more positions and interesting roles. So that's the kind of a value. And for the business to realize that, hey, there's an investment that we made and this is how it is resulting into. So it's a very classic ROI that we can create by building a talent pipeline using training initiatives.
Okay,
thanks,
Amit. Amit not only speaking about learning department's point of view, but also talking about business side. And I know that Laura and Davey right now are managing a whole company. So can Laura or Davey share a little bit about from CEO's inside? What's your expectation how do you think about how L&D department, L&D team can become a value creator? Laura or David, who wants to speak first?
So
Ladies
David,
first.
can I? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just want to give one example. As we know that the whole world is going electrification. So in China, the new vehicle, new energy vehicle, or we call e-cars, are developing very fast. It took us years in China to go from 0 to 1 million, and then it boomed. So it went from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 5, and this year we are targeting at 7 million. So this is a huge amount of cars, e-cars in the market, and that requires completely different skill set. For example, in the past, in our dealership, I mean everybody, not everybody, a lot of people go to a dealership to repair your cars. So in the past, the mechanical engineers or technicians, they are the most respected because they are the most skillful. And today, if you want to touch a car, an e-car, and then high voltage can be very dangerous. So if you want to get that job done, you need a national level certification to do that job. So this is at the dealership. So from OEM level, and actually, in China, we now are separated into 2 schools. One is companies like Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen. We are the conventional automakers. And then there are a lot of new entrants. They are internet-based. So their cars, even though reluctantly, but we had to admit that in terms of infotainment systems, they are much better. So as a traditional or conventional OEM, we are trying to catch up. So maybe you also heard about that, for example, like for Volkswagen, we have a brand new branch, which is called Carrot. So we have a lot of software engineers. So these are all new talents that we need to recruit. Of course, you can always recruit from outside, but these people also need to get to new cars. And our car engineers need to know all those software stuff. So in this case, how to merge these 2 groups of people together is a new challenge for us. So here, of course, L&D plays an important role. At first, the culture is different. The capabilities, second, the capabilities are different. So then, but to put all these different people, different things into one car to make a good product is quite something that we need to do over there. So these are the challenges we are coping with, but that also shows the value of L&D here.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Laura just illustrate a really good example that a new, I'm not sure if that is a new industry, but for the car industry, that is really a new bump for everyone. And like this example, we can see that the L&D needs to play a really good role, because if they cannot helping the business to cope with these challenges and to build more talent on the new industry, that will not help the company to go forward. So I will also invite David to get some more input, because you are also in the, I think, quite important industry, healthcare. So from healthcare industry, do you have any thoughts on how L&D can become a value creator?
Okay, thanks. Anyway, Laura, I'm sold on German technology, right? So I think there's a lot to learn from German automation. And why I say that is because I think, you know, we all learned from Toyota about Kaizen, and a lot of us are now bringing these tools into the organization and equipping employees with these tools. So I would like to share a little bit about how in today's world changing so fast, we need to actually bring the elephant in the room and look at things from a system point of view, right? So back in the acute hospital that I used to work on, and we are now building on into a larger cluster level, is how do we focus on job redesigns, right? Because if we keep doing the same old thing, we're probably going to get the same results, right? And that's where progress is really slow. So let me, give me about 2 to 3 minutes. Let me explain how we actually did this on a 10-year journey, and we are still refining it. So we looked at 1.0 first, which is the what's in it for me. So I think we need to be able to embrace the individual with the learning infrastructure, right? Build it around the learner. So I like what Amit says, about allowing the learner to personalize their learning. Because nowadays, people are actually chasing time. Time doesn't seem to be enough. So we must be able to make learning bite-sized. So what we looked at it is we looked at, how do we build a digital learner 5.0, which was what I actually presented at ATD Orlando last year, right? Where we looked at the individual as a 1.0, building up his capabilities, not only for today, but for tomorrow, like what Thomas did explain as well, because skills are actually changing. Then we move into a 2.0. A 2.0 looks at a team setup. How do I then support my team, right? And when we look at a team, we can actually bring in where the low value job for an experienced person is to develop it into a value added job. And we actually can build and break glass ceilings when we talk about job descriptions, enlarging enlarging jobs, right? Then we looked at Learner 3.0. What is a Learner 3.0? It's transdisciplinary. You don't only need to, be an expert in one area. In order for you to focus on what your outcomes or the value that you want to create, you must be able to know and understand a few other skills, right? So I give you an example of healthcare. After a surgery, you may need the expertise of a speech therapist, right? But as you are recovering from a surgery, you would also need general information about, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, nutrition, dietitian, right? These are supplementary skills that help you focus on the customer, resident, or the patient in front of you. And a 4.0 is at a system level. We can't work alone. Even if we work in an organization, we will be slower than if we build networks. And now everything, it's about relationships and networks. So I like what Thomas says about engagement. How do we engage a larger learning ecosystem so that we are not duplicating efforts, but we are synergizing and systematizing learning and making the learners navigate through learning paths, so through self-directed learning, more meaningful.
Super.
Okay, thanks, David. You just explained a really I think it's really a framework that we can all think about on from the micro view and to the macro view. And David several times cites what Thomas just said before. So Thomas, would you add on some more insight?
Sure, I'll maybe just add to what David was talking about there, because I was really fascinated by the Learner 3.0 concept. And when we talk about sort of T-shaped human resources, the importance of learning beyond just your specialist area. I think I completely agree with David that need is becoming more and more pronounced in the modern world, because we need our employees to be able to visualize things from a sort of systems perspective, holistic points of view, just beyond their sort of area of specialization. One thing that we did at Novartis that I was really proud of, I suppose, was take a stance whereby we say to employees that you can learn what you want. So we're going to give you access to vast amounts of learning resources. So, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, and various other platforms. But we're not going to say that you have to learn within your specific area of specialization. you can learn whatever you like. We encourage you to devote 5% of your working hours on an annual basis, which equates to about 100 hours per year, to your learning, but we're not going to tell you what to learn. So I think in doing that, we were encouraging our associates to learn with range. So a few years back, David Epstein wrote a book called Range, and that had a big impact on me personally. And it talks about the importance when we look back at sort of human innovations or examples of great creativity, that often those examples come about because the people in question are learning with breadth and range, and not just limited to their area of specialization. So I think going forwards, when we think about the need for innovation and creativity within companies, that taking a stance where we say, okay, we encourage you to be curious, we encourage you to learn, but we're not going to tell you what that needs to be. It's up to you. I think that's quite a bold move from a company's point of view. But I also think it's critical when we think about the sort of innovation and creativity of organizations.
Hi, Thomas, but when I'm really impressed on your saying now, but from the backend data dashboard, what's the result when you propose this kind of idea to the employees?
The result was fantastic. So, I mean, we were measuring, we were tracking learning hours. Obviously, hours themselves aren't sort of the outcome, I guess. The outcome is beyond that. But one of the impacts of our work in trying to drive a culture of curiosity across the organization was that the average number of learning hours per associate doubled over the course of 3 to 4 years, where we were really trying to drive this agenda, and we were running various campaigns and learning initiatives. Like, for example, we had a learning month every year in September, which was all about sort of generating excitement around learning and encouraging our associates to learn with breadth. And we were able to double the average learning hours from, I think it was around 25 hours per year to over 50 hours per year in that short space of time. And looking at the sort of data of what people were learning as well, we were seeing quite a lot of sort of breadth there as well.
Okay.
When we were
I see Laura show hands, like Laura.
Yeah. Can I have a question or to share with you some of my frustrations? Because I think David and Thomas, they're experts. I'm really impressed by what David just said, engaging a large learning organization. That's what I need. And also Thomas said, you can learn what you want. But what if people don't want to learn? For example, like I took over Volkswagen Group Import about 2 years ago. So this is an organization of more than 20 years. So we have very loyal employees. So that means some of them, the skill sets has been outdated. So we've been working with HR, and also we have already created a lot of different programs like Slashes to the Future, and then working lunch with management to share their worries, concerns, questions. So we open the doors, bring them out to visit different companies to learn. However, I mean, there are quite some good people, those people who want to learn. I mean, that's good. They just grasp the opportunities and grow very fast. However, we always have some people, I think in coaching, and we call them, you can never wake up the sleeping dogs. This is my area of concern. And really, I think I tried everything, but there are some things that I cannot do. So this is my frustration. So any advice or comments? maybe
let me share. And I don't know whether Thomas has the the silver bullet. I sure don't have the silver bullet, and I'm trying to look for it. And I hope that, as being in the learning community, we actually can put our heads together and see how we enable each other's organizations. But I think there are frustrations, right? There is definitely frustrations. We always look at it from, pointing the finger at the employee. Maybe we are just doing too much, in my opinion, right? Sometimes I feel that we need to let go. And I think if technology is so in our face today, right? We need to learn from what I always look at the adoption curve, right? Where you have your 16 or 3 or 5% of the people who would jump at your new initiatives. You have another 10 to 12 people who will say, why don't I join them? I think, look, it looks fun. Then on the other side of the spectrum, you will have about 15, 20 people who won't budge. And you have your middle people who are probably waiting and seeing what to do. I think what you need is to develop advocates, right? And these advocates has to be supporters of the initiatives that is going largely into the organization. So yes, management, usually we push things downwards, but if you can do a multi-pronged attack of, coming from ground up, which is the 15, 20% who was jumping on your initiatives, together with management, how do you then tell stories, right? And I think in the world today, we are all living as FOMOs, right? Fear of missing out. I'm very sure if you keep to, sticking to what matters most, because sometimes we change too frequently. And it's like going into an ice cream shop and saying, what's the flavor of the month, right? And that's where employees will stop jumping on your new initiatives because they are waiting for the next one that comes out maybe in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. I think you need to use a little bit of, Pareto's principle. What is that 20% that will impact your employees? And perhaps stick to it for maybe, a good 1, 2, 3 years and see how it manifests. And, just to share, what Thomas said earlier, one of the things that I did was we threw away learning hours, right? It's not to say that learning hours were not important, but is learning hours really a good measurement, right? Of whether a person learned. And I think that's the biggest $1 million question that keeps a lot of L&D professionals up at night, right? So what we did was to learn how to let go, which is, giving people the tools and allowing them to explore. And today we are quite proud to say that we haven't arrived, but we see the shifts that Thomas has explained as well, where more people are pooling content rather than learning paths which are there as seen as pushing to the employee. So we do a pull and push approach. And what we do is we take what the employees are pulling and we market it back into our learning catalogs and saying, this is what the employees in your areas are learning. Maybe you should learn this too as well. And once upon a time, we had 80% of our catalog, which has more than 1,000 over programs across many, many disciplines. And 20% was what employees were learning and maybe that's the benefits of COVID, where we changed quite significantly and people had to adapt to changes, right? Today, our catalog is almost 75% curated by employees and only 20% are the ones specific to business needs, right? And I think we need to have the support and clarity in where we are moving and learn how to trust. Trust is the key thing, right? That the employees will want to be part of your organization and stay with your organization longer than expected.
Wonderful. I mean, if I could just build up on what David mentions, Laura, one of the things that has worked well for me and for my clients when I consult them is very recently we did a change management program. And rather than doing a top-down announcement of the change management, the organization hired me to help build learning champions. So I did multiple training programs where the organization had identified peers. Rather than the managers driving the learning agenda, their own peers who were trained as learning champions because they've been the early adopters, they've been embracing learning. So that's one of the strategy that you may want to adopt. Number one. Number two, while at Infosys, we had created a marketing campaign, a communication campaign where we celebrated career journeys of our employees and linked their career path, their career journeys with the amount of learning initiatives that they embraced.
Mm.
So when the other employees who are at the borderline, who are at the fence, when they see the career journeys of their peers, then they will get motivated. So it's a pull strategy, and that has worked very well. Yeah. So you may want to look at these two approaches.
Yeah, very informative and very useful and practical as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for Laura's follow-up questions, and thanks for Debbie and Amit response with lots of practical suggestions. And because all we are thinking is about how to become a value creator, but I think in this changing era, no matter who is talking about VUCA era or Barney era or post-COVID. So how do you all see that for the L&D team or L&D department? How do they upskill themselves? What's the capability that they need right now, currently, to develop their organization as a good organization? What's the capability that you, from your point of view, that think they need to upskill? Anyone volunteer to share some ideas?
I would say that, being very clear with the employees that your career growth is your responsibility. We will, as a learning enabler, we'll play a role of enabling you. We'll play a role of providing you a catalog, which David very beautifully articulated, saying that, we have our employees creating the learning catalog. So our role as an organization is to provide learning opportunities, resources, but the ownership of training, the ownership of improving your own skills relies on you. And more in the COVID era, where there's so much of learning that's available on the internet now for you. So there's so much of digital resources that have been created. And a lot of people who would question saying, how could I train myself on a Zoom platform? I don't think it's for me, right? So all those myths, all those challenges have been busted. Yeah. So we've seen great impact of learning using digital tools, and even Zoom platform or Cisco WebEx or Teams have also evolved over these years to meet the requirements of the learners. So they're adding more tools, more features. So I think that's what we need to educate our employees. I would want to stress the point saying your career is your responsibility. We are going to be playing a role of enabler and nothing beyond that.
Okay, thanks, Amit.
Yeah, I think I'm just building on Amit's point. So when thinking about sort of future capabilities and how the L&D function should be responsible for driving it, I like Amit's perspective that actually, to a degree, the sort of onus is on the employee. I think that's particularly true because it's very hard for organizations now to predict the exact capabilities that will be required 5 years or 10 years down the line. So I think to a degree, as a consultant, we can go into the business side and work with particular organizations and try and sort of map out, 5 years down the line, what are the capabilities that will be required, and then how can we design an ecosystem to build those capabilities. To a degree, we can support with that, but it's not an exact science and it's impossible to 100% predict. So I think one of the most important things is that employees take responsibility for their learning, and they have a sense of curiosity about things that are going on in the world, about things like, you know, ChatGTP. They have external networks beyond their organization. They're attending seminars and events, etc., where the latest thinking in digital is being shared. One of the things that we're doing at Shiseido at the moment that I think is great is our work in generating curiosity around digital and new technology and things like the metaverse. So we have a digital transformation office, which is trying to drive that curiosity around digital. And we had this fantastic summit just last month that was open up to all employees to access online. It was also you could also attend face-to-face here in Japan. And we invited speakers, not just from within the organization, but from across multiple organizations across the globe. So we had speakers flying in from Silicon Valley, talking about things like the metaverse, ChatGTP, and part of the reason for that was just to generate this excitement and interest and get our employees thinking about, you know, what might be some of the potential use for these new technologies in their own line of work. So, yeah, I think as a L&D function, we can drive that curiosity and excitement and interest, but ultimately there is a great deal of onus, I guess, on the individual employees as well to take ownership of their learning and be looking sort of outside of their immediate specialist area for new trends and new technologies and how they can leverage those.
Okay.
Wally, can I add on to what Thomas has just said? I think Thomas seems to be very passionate about being curious. You know, he said it in the beginning and he's saying it now a couple of times as well. I can't agree more. I think we as L&D people, you know, need to realize what got us here won't get us there. Right. And that's the first kind of clear thing that we need to see when we stand in the mirror. And I think we need to break it down and become childlike again, right? Where we are extremely curious as, you know, I like to call it a childlike mindset of being curious, right? Because when we were young, we were so curious and we did everything and anything without fear. But now as we mature and we bring education, we make things a little bit complex for ourselves, right? And I think as L&D people, some of the skills that we need to embrace are facilitation. We are no longer subject matter experts. With the world changing so fast, we can't afford to be. We need to share this expertise with who matters most in the business. And we need to be confident enough to stand and say, I don't know. But let's work on it together and bring us where we want to be, right? And that's where you bring in your tools, whether it's your value stream mapping, whether it's your design thinking, right? And work with the business together alongside as integrators, as collaborators, and in the process, building a very strong relationship with them so that we start to allow the employees to feel empowered, have accountability, and build ownership, right? I think these are some of the things that we as L&D people need to embrace.
Just to add on to what I heard from David and Thomas is that we need to, as L&D professionals, we need to integrate ourselves with business. The curiosity element has to extend beyond what are the other tools that are available to me. I need to spend time on the business floors. And be curious enough in understanding what are the triggers, what are the core elements that drive the business, what are the pains, participate in client calls, listen into what the clients are saying, what the customer is asking for, and then draw what kind of tools, what kind of resources, whether I need an external help, to bring in for my business. That's where we will be able to generate a lot of value. When business sees that, hey, these guys are showing a lot of interest, they're spending time with us, they are curating contextually training programs for us, and we see the results also. So I think that's very important, to become a trusted advisor, to connect well with what the organization needs are. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Hi, Laura.
Yeah. So I think I would just add some words. I think we have a lot of challenges. Just now we heard about curiosity. And actually, I would like to add one more word, because if you feel like that it is fun, and then you will have more creativity. So also to share one example, and for example, when I wanted to hire people, and sometimes I got the candidates, and then in the interview, they would say, what is the JD? Usually I would say, So I said that the reason why I want to hire you from outside is because I want you to bring in fresh ideas. So if there's a JD, I always say, I want you to come up with a new JD for me. Thank you.
That's a good way to recruit new people. Yeah. Okay, so we talk a lot on how L&D can upskill themselves, and I think we all agree on the first word is called curiosity, and another one is from Laura. You need to have fun, because when you are fun, you will have lots of creativity. And I also think that we need to think about how to help our organization and also our employees. And when you think of the final goal, you will start to think about what you need to upskill yourself. So I think if we have the end, begin with the end in mind, we will start to think about how can I achieve there. So that is a good input. And finally, I think we need to think about another trend. I'm not quite sure what's your training networking focus on. For the past 2 months, the Taiwan training networks, they are all crazy for ChatGPT. Everyone start to put their course title, and then ChatGPT just come out the suggested agenda for they to create the content. So everyone is crazy around me for the ChatGPT. So the last part, I want to hear from all of you that how L&D can leverage technology and tools like AI or ChatGPT or even Metaverse. And is there any example or case already happening in your organization? Can you share a little bit on the technology or the new trend side for all of the participants to understand how can they face this new technology?
I think I would like to share a little bit about the example that we walked, the journey of about 3 years. And this is a positive of the COVID story, right? Because when COVID hit, I think hospitals were the first one to actually feel the impact, right? As the world kind of got more and more cases, right? And I remember when COVID hit Singapore shores in February 2020, right? Was it? We all thought that, wow, L&D is going to be going and helping operations, because nobody's going to learn. But in fact, just about 6 weeks after COVID hit and things started to become clearer, it was very evident that L&D had a very critical role to play, right? And that's where, in 2018, we started this whole concept of how do we change learning andragogies from the point of view of breaking down and making learning bite-sized. And we went heavily into micro-learning, and we actually built a community of content developers, right, within the organization in 2018. So we invested a lot of time to be able to structure the content. And as L&D experts, we hone our pride of being instructional designers, right? But what we did is to unselfishly break this down and give the ground the skills and tools that they need to develop content. But we become the quality assurance to make sure that the adult learner concepts are well built in, so on and so forth, right? And we realized the benefits of doing that, because when we hit COVID and we needed to push out emergency information quickly, right? we could develop content very quickly and be able to push out large amounts of content that needed to reach masses, right? And when we catalyze that on our LMS, and we also realized that the content can be changed very quickly and scaled, right? So technology is the way to go. So what we decided to do then, we decided to see how best then do we bring other learning tools to the learner. We partnered LinkedIn Learning. And why do we partner LinkedIn Learning? Because we all know LinkedIn is one of the most successful professional social media platforms, right? And a lot is being done because a lot of tools and AI is being built by LinkedIn at the back end to match, what you post on your profile, right? And they built that as a HR system. And this HR system now is linking to the learning of the entire population that's subscribed to LinkedIn. And I think half the work is already being done there, right? Because these are learning paths created for us on areas that are more critical that's happening. And I'm not selling LinkedIn because I don't work for LinkedIn, but I'm sold into LinkedIn because of their expertise of content. They bring in subject matter experts and they develop it fast and move the content so that it breaks down bite size for people to know what they want, right? So a little bit commercial for LinkedIn. Yes, your prices are high. If you bring it down, you'll make more money. If you bring this to a lot of learners in many, many organizations, right? So I think what we were also building, and we built a proof of concept, right? And if you realize in technology, proof of concept was about 100 and 200 users, right? But our hospital is made up of various what we call family groups: medical, nursing, allied health forces, ancillary, and admin, right? And we had almost a 10,000 workforce. And we said, to do a proof of concept for 200, it doesn't make sense. How are you going to know what the needs are really, what are the real needs? So we pushed the envelope and we managed to get a POC for 5,000 people, right? For 6 months. And that was amazing because we partnered a technology partner that was looking to see how we can co-develop and co-build a platform where we build an entire learning ecosystem around the learner, where we bring in LMS, we bring in LXP, the learning experience platforms, and we wanted to have a multi-year build on this to be able to eventually one day develop predictive analytics so that it tracks your career. And when you move your career and you indicate where you want to be, it kind of pushes information to you. It develops a social community around you for you to be able to tap on resources, whether it's coaching, mentoring, right? And these were the dreams that we have, which we hope that we can build one day and make an impact in the entire learning space, because everyone on this world is a learner.
Okay. Anyone want to add some?
Yeah, so just one observation, thank you, Thomas, that I have is the message here: while AI, ChatGPT, and so many other tools are evolving, what we heard from David is that the moderation of it, tracking whether the information is useful or validating, that responsibility continues to be with the business function or the learning function, and I think that's something that we need to be mindful of. But we should allow, but we should allow people to explore different technologies. We shouldn't be worried about ChatGPT or similar other, AI solutions. And but as long as we are making sure that the quality is being maintained, our focus on does it really meet our requirements, I think that validation is important. That kind of that's very important for us to moderate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over to you, Thomas.
That discussion around quality actually links into what I was going to share about something we were engaged with at Novartis near the end of my time there was the introduction of Edcast as an LXP for the organization. And well, the main motivation for introducing that was again to drive that sort of learning ownership among our associates and enable them to link their learning with their sort of career aspirations and objectives. So you would go into the LXP, you would write down your sort of career aspirations, your current strengths, weaknesses, areas to develop, etc. And then it would use AI to recommend learning resources from across our sort of resource library. And then in addition to that, one of the strengths of this particular LXP was that it enabled content creation by the user. So any of our associates could go in there and for example, put up a 5-minute video on something in their area of expertise, and we could use that to then sort of develop knowledge communities within the company and sort of further our knowledge management agenda that we were working on at the company. But yeah, one of the sort of key debates that came up when we were introducing this tool was around the quality, like Amit discussed. So is it okay for anyone to go in and for example post a video which is maybe factually incorrect or hasn't been fact checked? And I guess we sort of the outcome of those discussions was that we have to sort of treat it as a sort of natural living being, I guess, this LXP, and ultimately the decision was made to sort of not monitor that, not sort of quality control the learning content that was going in there, and that links back to David's point from before, about sort of letting go to a degree from the L&D side, not constantly sort of monitoring learning hours, I think was the example he gave, and yeah, sort of leaving it in the hands of the learners and trusting in the workforce.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I think for those new technologies, they are already here. It's a matter of how much we integrate it into our daily work and our life. So quickly, 2 examples. The first example was about 3 years ago. At the time, I led the Smart City project, and we landed the first autonomous driving project in a living community. So at that time, we already had, autonomous driving. Then we talk about level 4 as the latest technology. So for your cars, if you're driving today, level 2 are there, and quite some of the level 3 functions are already there as well. So how to use those technology? I also have a very old example, sorry about that. But around 5-6 years ago, when we worked on the e-cars, we all know battery, as I just mentioned, can be very dangerous, the high voltage. And we use the AR to do training, because for technicians, you can ask them to work on them. You have to, but there are a lot of sales consultants. They have no technical background. So we use the AR to give them the training to lead them through the living environment in the virtual world. So that's what we did. And I think that also worked very well. Okay.
I think, and just to add, I think it's not to jump on these new fads straight away. It's to really know what you want, why you want it, why do you need it, and whether this can actually, have certain indicators, whether it's to improve safety, it's to improve productivity, right? It's able to build sustainability, because there are many, many other things that you need to learn. So the clarity of why do you need it is very, very critical, because if you jump on every fad, you will realize that sooner or later, L&D is going to devalue themselves, because you're spending a lot of money, because technology is not cheap, and you're not going to be able to show certain outcomes.
Okay, I think all the L&D teams must be really curious on exploring all the new tools, but it all link back to the value creation. So you need to think about how the tool are going to help you, and what and the tools helping on value creation. And we are almost 1 hour, so we will come to the final closing. And I would like to invite all of you to give a really short closing and any final words or advice to the participants. Okay, then we start from Thomas.
Yeah, I think like just reflecting on what we've discussed today, I think I'll go back to the point about when we think about how we add value to the business, it's important to have a sort of holistic view when defining value. So I think there's that sort of hard value, I guess, which is where we act as a consultant to the business, where we go in to the business side and we work with the heads of the organizations there to define their capability gaps and the potential solutions to bridge those gaps from a broad perspective, not limited to learning or training programs, but also taking into account systems and processes and culture and things like that. So there's that sort of hard aspect of driving those required business capabilities. I think that's where we can add value. And then there's the sort of softer aspect, perhaps. I mean, I don't really like the word soft because it maybe sort of undermines the value of what we're doing when we talk about learning as a means to drive engagement or attract employees or retain employees. But there's that softer piece as well. And for me, the key there that I've discussed today and that David called me out on is curiosity and how we can drive that culture of curiosity and have our employees looking outside and thinking about future trends and how they can best develop themselves going forwards.
Thanks, Thomas. And then Amit.
Yeah, so for me, you have to be business centric to create value. You need to understand what are the pain points of the business. You have to work very closely with the business teams, operations teams, and also with their clients and treat them as an extension of your clients. And sometimes, when you work very closely with the clients, you also can figure out how can you access the client's tools and resources as well. Yeah. So how can we integrate and leverage the client resources? And finally, are you revenue centric as an organization? Are you looking at yourself as just a cost center, or are you looking at identifying opportunities to help create more revenue for the organization? So if you're able to point that out, if you're able to track it and share it with the organization, with the business, I think that's where your value as a function grows. Yeah, that's the point I would like to make.
Okay, thanks, Amit. And then Laura?
Yeah, we have been talking about from organization perspective. I would like to talk about personal perspective, and I would like to share with people. And I believe lifetime learning is the only guarantee to a smiling mind and a good life.
Okay, thanks, Laura. And
Well
finally, we come to the last one, David.
Okay, first I'd like to thank Wally for a great, kind of moderation for this very esteemed panel. And I learned a lot from Thomas, Laura, and Amit. And it's been enjoyable. 1 hour, I didn't even realize 1 hour just went so fast, right? And that kind of summarizes what actually I want to say. Make the time count, don't count the time, right? And I think as L&D professionals, we need to be, experts at being great facilitators and collaborators, because we can rock the world and we have, much value to bring to not only ourselves as well as, within our organizations and the larger world. But I think if we as L&D professionals build, whatever we call COPs, committees of practice, being able to tap on each other's expertise, reaching out to you to say, I don't know, do you have some ideas on this? Could you help me? And we build on each other and help enable each other. Then we ourselves will be lifelong learners with a very happy, smiley face and enjoy what we do for a lifetime that we spend on this world.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. It's really my pleasure to host the panel discussion. Really learn a lot from all of you, and hope that our 1 hour panel discussion can give some insight to all the participants who watch this video. Okay, we finish, we done. Good.